If you spend more time worrying about the future as opposed to planning for it or strategizing for it, if you spend more time trying to make enemies envious of you in your life rather than working towards a life where you are surrounded by people that love you and prioritize you, if you care more about convincing others that you're okay rather than actually being okay, prioritize being liked over actually being happy, if your feelings are your biggest fear, or if you're waiting for somebody to open a door for you, hand you the life that you are dreaming of, then you are in the right place. I am finally talking about this book, The Mountain Is You by Brianna Weist, transforming self-sabotage into self-mastery, and that is exactly what it is. It's a very straightforward book. This video is not a substitution for actually reading the book by any means. Obviously, if you take the time to go out and get the book, read it for yourself, you will gain so much more than you will just by watching this video. But I really just wanted to highlight and emphasize some things and talk about how they've applied to my life and how they've helped me. If this is your first time on my channel or seeing one of my videos or seeing my face ever, my name is Jordan. My puppy is about to sabotage. My goal with doing videos like this though is sometimes you just want a quick advice. You're having a hard time. When I listen to friends talk about their lives or issues that they're having or family, there's always things in my head going off about something I learned in a book that I read one time. And if I could force everyone in my life to read everything that I read, I would, because it seriously is a form of therapy. You could literally go get a library card and be doing yourself a huge service. Okay, we got our incense going and we're ready to go. So each and every one of us is a product of our past experiences, traumas. A lot of the times it's really hard for us to move forward when we're so stuck on something that happened to us in our past. And so I'm just gonna read a couple lines from the book. I'm gonna do this throughout the video to pull specific quotes and stuff. I swear my animals are trying to sabotage me. Okay. When your mind is stuck in the past, it isn't because it wants to return there. It's because you were impacted far more deeply than you ever realized, and the aftershocks are still rippling through you. The fact that you can still recall what happened is a signal that you're healthier than you think, more willing to heal than you realize, and more forgiving than you ever imagined you could be. Everything that's haunted you is rising in your consciousness so you can see it and bow out with grace. You are not the person you were, even if all those pieces are still very much a part of you. You are not broken for being in pain. You're seeing yourself out of it. Sometimes after we go through things that destroy us, we identify with being broken and destroyed, and that's not the case. When we tell ourselves that we're broken or we're lost, when we identify with those things, we don't realize it, but that is what we're telling our subconscious. And I'm actually going to plug another book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Our thoughts are way more powerful than we give them credit for. So when we say things like that to ourselves, our subconscious is listening, and our subconscious only does what we tell it to do. So when we identify with that, we amplify that feeling in ourselves just by saying and identifying with that. Even if you really do feel broken, and I know I've been there, I promise all of us have a strength inside of us that we aren't even aware of. Every single one of us. And you hear everything that you need is already within you. And that's such a big, broad statement, but it's true. And that's what cliches are for, because they're freaking true and we need to listen to them. She has an excerpt in here about struggling to move on, and I know I have friends and family that are like, I really don't see myself moving on from this. I don't. And that's, I mean, already having that mindset is something to work on as well, but you can't help how you feel. You can help your thoughts and your mindset, but you can't help your emotions and the level of pain that you're feeling. So if you are certain that you cannot let go of what is hurting you, then don't. But take one step today and another tomorrow to rebuild a new life for yourself, piece by piece, day by day. I really loved that she even worded it that way, because I feel like so many self-help books are like, you need to change your mindset or you're not going to get any better. And while that may be true, a lot of people are not receptive to that kind of advice, that kind of aggressive, you need to change this or you're not going to get any better. No one is going to come and save you. You need to save yourself. Yes, those are all true statements, but a lot of people aren't receptive to that. When they hear advice like that, they almost shut down because they don't feel like they have the strength to do it. So I really, really loved that. And the small steps that you can take every single day, journaling is, I will always preach about journaling. It's such an amazing practice to start with yourself. That's another thing. 10 minutes at the end of your day, 10 minutes before going to bed, 10 minutes when you wake up. It really does help to just write it physically on paper and get it out of your body, especially when you feel like you have no one to talk to. Taking a walk outside, getting the sun is literally, I mean, just so good for your body and your mind and your soul. Meditating. I struggle with meditation because I feel like my mind is so hard to quiet and silence, and I know that's common for a lot of people, but it is something that I'm trying to be better at, because I do realize just giving myself 5 minutes of complete silence, calmness, and just focusing on my breath and my body. There's not a lot of moments in the day that we give ourselves those 5 minutes. So meditating is really important, and making the step to find a therapist, schedule your first therapy appointment. That is a huge, huge, huge thing. Those small steps turn into big outcomes. If you want to change your life, you need to make tiny, nearly undetectable decisions every hour of every day until those choices are habituated. Then you'll just continue to do them. If you want to exercise more, do it now for just 10 minutes. If you want to read 1 page. If you want to meditate, do so for 30 seconds. Then keep doing those things. Do them every single day. You'll run for 10 minutes and you won't feel like you have to stop, so you won't. You'll read 1 page, grow interested, and read another. You don't need to wait until you feel like changing to start changing. All you need is to make 1 micro shift at a time and then let the energy and momentum build. So going more into shifting your mindset and things that you can control that will help you out of self-sabotage behaviors is caring more about how you evaluate and judge yourself, as opposed to what anybody else thinks about what you're doing with your life or how you're acting, or etc. Nobody is thinking about you in the way that you think they're thinking about you. They're mostly thinking of themselves. When you feel self-conscious for going grocery shopping in your sweatpants, please know that nobody cares and nobody is looking. When you feel anxious about your accomplishments or lack thereof, please know that for the most part, nobody cares and nobody is looking. This is true of absolutely everything in life. Nobody is evaluating you the way you are evaluating you. They mostly take you at face value. Stop thinking that you're the sun that everyone revolves around. This world is not all about you. Your life isn't even all about you. The more you can put aside your spotlight complex, the more you're going to be able to relax. When I learned about the spotlight complex, that really did something for me because I struggle with really bad social anxiety, and that comes with worrying. I mean, I will literally dissect every single way that I act or way that I say something, every single word, the way that I say it, and I like, oh, I said that weird and they probably think this and this and this. I torture myself with my spotlight complex, and it's just so not necessary. And that's something that truly I am really, really trying to work on, because you really should be living your life for you on your terms. If you're living your life for everybody else, I know when I'm doing that, I'm miserable and I feel drained and empty, and I'm really not even accomplishing anything. Making people happy makes me feel good, but that's also on the verge of people pleasing, which is self-destructive, really. So live your life for you and F what anybody else thinks. Another mind shift that you can do if you're living in a victim mindset, that's basically telling your self-conscious that you are a victim. Like I said before, anything you're saying to yourself, anything you're thinking to yourself, your subconscious is always, always, always listening, and it's always going to do what you are saying, what you are thinking. So if you fall into the mindset that life is happening to me, only bad things happen to me, the worst things happen to me, everybody else has this great, amazing life, there's no way you're going to stop feeling that way until you realize that, one, bad things happen to everybody, horrible things happen to everybody. Everybody has their own trauma. Social media is toxic. We all know that, but it's really toxic in the sense that it gives us the idea that everybody else has this happy, because it's all highlights, right? So especially in this holiday season, you go on social media and everyone's with their family, their big happy family, and it's even harder when like you have friends whose parents are together and like have been together forever and they're still happy, and it's like, it's so difficult sometimes to not fall into that victim mindset when you are envious of other people's lives, or at least the highlights that they choose to put out there, because nobody's life is all sunshine and butterflies. Don't let the fakeness of social media or even TV, like commercials, it's as simple as commercials, Thanksgiving commercials of big happy families around a dinner, a big huge dinner. That's what makes it so hard, is holidays are not great for everybody. And I'm just talking about holidays specifically because it's about to be Christmas, so this is kind of really relevant right now with the victim mindset. And I am so guilty of this. I try so hard to be happy for my friends that have big happy families that still get along, and but it is hard. It's not easy, and none of this stuff, healing and your healing journey, none of it is easy, but all of these tools and stuff, they do work, and it takes time, and it's a process, but we all have the strength to get there. And whatever your situation is like at home, whatever your family situation is like, it's okay. And if you're struggling right now with the holidays especially, I empathize with you, and I hope you know that you are absolutely not alone. With the victim complex also comes resentment at times too. Resentment against other people, resentment against people that have hurt us and that have caused our hardships. So I'm going to read this little part. When we are faced with resentment, what we instead must do is reinvent our image of those around us or those we have perceived as having wronged us. Other people are not here to love us perfectly. They are here to teach us lessons, to show us how to love them and ourselves better. Instead of focusing on how they should change, we can focus instead on what we can learn. I think that's super powerful. Obviously, I mean, it's not always easy to not be mad and angry and hateful to the people that have hurt us, especially if we're confident in who we are and we may think we know that they're wrong about me, they're wrong for doing this. I think it's a really strong, courageous thing to be able to set your hurt aside, to think about what lesson is coming out of this. Why did this person make you feel that way? What from your past that made you who you are today is making you react to this situation like this? And not saying that your emotions or feelings about being wronged are invalid, but I do think there's always a lesson to be learned and growth to experience in everything that happens. She also brings up in multiple parts of the book how society is not helpful to us, and I'm so grateful that authors and people in the education world are highlighting the fact that some of the problem, well, a lot of the problem in the mental health world is society. Careers, jobs, money is all prioritized over the human experience. And it's really, I'm so passionate about this because it makes me so upset and mad. In the society that we live in today, jobs, careers, money, all has to be prioritized over just living and over human experience in order to survive. Everyone has to have some kind of income to put food on the table, a roof over your head, over your kids' heads. And it just really sucks because those are things we shouldn't have to struggle to survive. And we all know that. That's a known thing. But in terms of mental health, it really, really is so damaging because it puts us in a place where we're literally forced to go through these traumatic hardships that shake our entire inner world, and we're just expected to keep going to work because we have to. And there's certain positions and jobs you can take a mental health day, you can take a leave of absence, but a leave of absence involves not being paid unless you're lucky enough to have paid leave absence. So I could talk about this all day and get really mad about it, but so she writes, "The wildest thing about life is how unassumingly it keeps moving. You lose the person closest to you and the world affords you a few days of grieving, and then you're expected to just keep going. You go through something so life-shifting, mind-altering, and deeply traumatic, then find that society only has a small bandwidth for tolerating your fear. Here's what you're allowed. You're okay to cry, and you're forgiven for being sad or canceling a few plans here and there. You're permitted a few days off of work and someone to listen to you vent a handful of times. But processing and accepting the gravity of something that touched every last inch of you is not something you can do on a mental health day. It's not something the world affords you enough time for, and so you botch the job. You carry on." It just makes me so sad because it makes me feel like we're literally set up to fail mentally. I don't think that's the intention of society, but I think that's just what it's come to with how powerful money has always been. And she even, at the end of that, you botch the job, you carry on. So we are almost encouraged to bury our emotions, bury our trauma, so that we can keep going to work and keep putting a roof over our head and keep surviving. We're almost forced to do that in order to keep surviving, just to make money. Like, it makes me sick to my stomach. And I'm just putting this in this video because it needs to be acknowledged. I don't know. I don't have a solution for it. We need to make money, but in no way, shape, or form should it be prioritized over experiencing what it means to be human. I could sit here and cry about this, but I'm not going to. The last thing I want to emphasize that she touches on a lot in this book is worry and anxiety. Anxiety is something that is wired into our brain to keep us safe, but it so easily can become something that keeps us too safe in the sense of being too comfortable. The problem with that is our brains are wired to solve problems. Our brains need to solve problems. When we stay inside, don't go outside, don't meet anybody new or talk to anybody, and we stay in our comfort zones for long periods of time, we end up creating internal battles in our own mind, and we become the problem within ourselves because our brain literally needs something to solve. I got a lot learning that because it made me realize that I am keeping myself in my comfort zone too long, and that's why I'm having all these internal battles. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not my biggest enemy, even though at times I'm sure a lot of you can relate to battling yourself internally and being your biggest bully, and a lot of us are harder on ourselves than we are anybody else. I think there's a healthy bandwidth of that, but like, we're just humans. Like, we are so complex, we are so complicated, and our whole life is basically to figure it all out, except we're never going to figure it all out because we don't even know if there's something to figure out in the first place. So, anyways, our minds also need adversity, and that's why it's instinctual to keep creating problems even if there aren't any real ones in front of us. If you deny and reject any kind of real challenge in your life, your brain will compensate by creating a problem to overcome. Except this time there won't be any reward at the end. It will just be you battling you for the rest of your life. So with this comfort zone and anxiety issue, it's obviously when you're deep and buried in anxiety, it's so overwhelming to think about confronting your fears, no matter how big or small you think they are. But she talks about exposure and how exposure to what you're scared of is really it can be very scary, but it's every single time you overcome something that you were scared of, you're building your self-esteem and your confidence to be able to solve problems in the future, to be able to confront future anxieties or worries. Mental strength is not just hoping that nothing ever goes wrong. It is believing that we have the capacity to handle it if it does. Maybe you don't have that self-belief yet, and that's okay. It's not something you're born with, it's something you build slowly and over time. It's something you develop with practice by addressing small problems and then learning healthy coping mechanisms and effective reasoning skills. The thing is that there are millions of scary things that can happen to us in our lives. That is true for everyone. When we are hung up on one scary thing over another, it's not because it's a more imminent or likely threat, it's because we are less convinced we would be able to respond to it. To heal, we don't need to avoid it. We need to develop logic to see situations for what they are and respond appropriately to them. So often in life, our biggest anxiety comes not from what's actually happening, but how we think about what is happening. In that, we reclaim our emotional freedom and power. So I just loved how she worded that. And I love how gentle she is in this whole book with, if you are in this position, it's okay. If you don't think you can do this, it's okay. But so this and this and this, She also mentions how when we are thinking about something, a scenario, a future scenario, and we think about everything wrong that could happen, she challenges us by asking us to imagine a third party going through the same situation, or imagining yourself on the other side of the scenario and everything went well. And sometimes I just need those little thoughts and imaginary practices to make myself realize that whatever I'm worried about is, it happens so often that I've almost gotten to the point that whatever I'm anxious about, I know immediately if I should or should not be anxious, like if it's that big of a deal, or if my anxiety and my worries, my brain trying to keep me safe is just making it a big deal. And that can sort of, the more time you practice that, the more often you do, it gains momentum. And it eventually, those anxieties and fears, you'll be able to have it, quickly realize that, okay, like I'm fine. I'm gonna be fine. I also don't remember if I read this from another book or a quote. I did not make this up, but it's letting your future self deal with your future problems. And just having the faith that whatever comes at you, you will be okay, you will handle it, and you'll come out on the other side perfectly fine. Even stronger, wiser, smarter. I just love that quote because I have spent hours and days just ruminating and worrying about different things, especially in the future, and worrying. It's really a control thing, worrying that I'm not going to be able to conquer whatever scenario I'm thinking about. But that also just comes with staying present, living in the day, taking life by the day instead of by, oh, like 6 months. Where am I going to be in 6 months? Okay, I need this amount of money saved up so I can do this in a year and blah, blah, blah. Planning and strategizing is perfectly healthy and great, but there's a healthy dose of everything, and you know yourself better than anybody. I know that I am somebody that needs to focus on the day ahead of me instead of the second I place myself in the future. I immediately think that I'm going to be in the same financial position 5 years from now, when I know that's not the case. I just don't know what my financial situation is going to be, so that makes me nervous. And that's just one example, but you can't control the future because it's not real yet. So this is what I wanted to end this video on, because I think for some reason it just really impacted me more than anything else in this whole book. Like, I got emotional reading it type thing. So though your emotions are always valid and need to be validated, they are hardly ever an accurate measure of what you are capable of in life. They are not always an accurate reflection of reality. All your feelings know is what you've done in the past, and they are attached to what they've drawn comfort from. You may feel as though you are worthless, but you most certainly are not. You may feel as though there is no hope, but there most certainly is. You may feel as though everyone dislikes you, but that is probably a gross exaggeration. You may think everyone is judging you, but that is a misperception. Most importantly, you may feel as though you cannot take action when you most certainly can. You simply do not feel willing because you are not used to it. If you have dealt with depression and dark feelings, suicidal thoughts, whatever it is, I really, really hope that you take those words to heart, even if you don't believe them right now. I really hope that you give yourself a moment, maybe to just even pretend that you believe them. I just feel like there is a group of people out there that have very similar minds to mine. I have a intensely strong mind in the sense that when I go low, it is very low, and I will believe everything that my mind is telling me, the darkest of thoughts, and it will control my whole life and identity for weeks at a time. And then I mean, there was a point in my life where it was years that I felt like there was no light inside of me. And I had no hope that I was ever gonna feel good. And I want to, that's why I'm sitting here doing this. I don't think that I could have found the support that I found in books, self-help books, anywhere else. And I don't know if I'm just being dramatic about it, but I really do feel this way, especially because I've never met any of the authors of the books that I've read. They're strangers out in the world, and they're writing things that touch me so deeply emotionally that it impacts my life and changes my inner reality. And the fact that a stranger out in the world that has no idea who I am has the ability to do that for me is the reason why I am so passionate about sharing this stuff. And I get so like cheesy and cringy about it because I just feel so full of hope, because that's what these books have done for me. And I'm going to continue to share with you guys more books that have helped me. But yeah, I kind of went off on a tangent, but I know there's people out there thinking those things about themselves and thinking they're worthless. And when you're feeling that way and that dark, you have no energy or even care to change your life. And it's really, really dark, and it's a negative cycle. And I just hope that if there's somebody out there in that mindset right now, in that darkness, that anything from this video was helpful to you. I guess I also have just so much confidence in these books and in journaling and all of that, because I was in a place for so long where I had no hope. The fact that anything existed that could help me, I seriously was so confident that there was no way I was ever going to be okay again. And I wouldn't say that I'm okay even yet. We're all hanging in there. Give me any book suggestions that you guys have read that you think I could benefit from. I would love to add to my list of books that I need to read. If you watched this whole thing and got to the end of it, I appreciate you, but I also hope that you got something out of it. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a good holiday season, whether that's by yourself, with friends, with family, with your neighbor, whatever it is. And take care of yourself. Take gentle care of yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. Live your life for you, because you're the only one that has to wake up with yourself every day and go to bed with yourself every single day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.